Let's see if it does it. I don't know if it's doing it. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Hello. Okay, so this needs to come here. Let's do this. I gotta figure out how I'm doing this here. I guess I'm only getting 720. That's weird. Watching YouTube. Isn't that that's a weird thing to do right there. Like be on YouTube watching YouTube? Is that a thing? That's a thing, apparently. Put that there. Let's expand that to there. All right. Why am I only getting like 720p on my camera? That's not cool. All right, let's go watch the news.
So it is Monday. My name is Philip DeFranco, and for the same reasons we had to do this at the end of last week, out of necessity, today's Monday Philip DeFranco show will be in two parts, two videos. And this video is the first part. We need to talk about a very troubling and very graphic story. I want to give you that warning from the outset. You're going to be seeing videos that are graphic in nature, so consider this your warning. Now, because of that, YouTube's content rating system and algorithm, if not initially, will eventually rate this video mature, making it far less likely, even though it's such an incredibly important story and we need to be talking about this, far less likely that people will get their eyes on it, not popping up as much on your recommended, not popping up on your homepage. So to try and combat that system, about 5 hours after this video was uploaded, right here on the channel, we'll have part 2 of the Monday Philip DeFranco show uploaded. That will hopefully not get suppressed by YouTube, and it'll raise awareness to the fact that this video exists. And you can go to part 1, part 2 if both are out. Top link down below, or you can click the thing here, or just go to the channel. Obviously, I'm having to jump through a lot of hoops to try to make this work, but that's a situation, and it is worth it because this story is that important. So, with all of that said, let's talk about the peaceful protests, the riots, the looting, the violence, the police conduct, and other updates that we've seen regarding the George Floyd story that we've been covering since last week. So where we last left things on Thursday, we had Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman casting doubt as to whether the main officer of the 4 could face criminal charges.
My job in the end is to prove that he violated a criminal statute. And there is other evidence that does not support a criminal charge.
Right, so he did that, which enraged so many people, only for him to then on Friday say this of Derek Chauvin.
Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin has been charged by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office with murder and with manslaughter. He has been charged with third-degree murder. We are in the process of continuing to review the evidence. There may be subsequent charges.
And in fact, according to reports, Chauvin is the first white officer to be criminally prosecuted in the death of a black civilian in the entire state of Minnesota. Now briefly, regarding those charges, they carry a combined maximum sentence of 35 years in prison. And very notable to this story is that it is a third-degree murder charge, because under Minnesota statute, third-degree murder doesn't require an intent to kill. Which is why in reaction to this, we saw Floyd's family calling for first-degree murder charges and the arrest of the other 3 officers. But as of right now, none of them have been arrested or charged yet, though notably regarding an update, footage that surfaced this weekend appears to show 3 officers, including Chauvin, kneeling on Floyd. And as far as any response or statement from those other officers, we have not seen one. And actually, according to Freeman, all of those officers have invoked the 5th Amendment and were not cooperating. Right, so those are updates pertaining to the actual case itself. But of course, the main thing that we're going to be focusing on today are these massive protests we've seen breaking out all over the country. Now, a thing I want to note is that given the scale of everything we've been witnessing, it is going to be impossible to cover everything. And I really do want you to keep in mind that this is not going to be a perfect summary of everything that has happened thus far, for a number of reasons, some of which that we're going to touch on. Starting with the fact that there are so many differing narratives right now, and there's this constant flow of developing information. Or we see a video, we think we understand it, then minutes or hours later, or sometimes a day later, another clip shows up, completely changes everything. And we're seeing a number of those situations right now. Like for example, we saw this man who appeared to be involved in a protest in Salt Lake City, who has identified himself as Brandon McCormack, telling a reporter,
Well, first I got beat up when I yelled, "All All Lives Matter. Then I pulled out weapons, then I got beat up some more. Then the cops grabbed me, and my car got totaled.
How did you get hurt on your forehead?
Because I yelled out my window, cops...
Did somebody hit you with something?
Yes, 2 black African Americans.
Then, in another video that's gone viral, as of recording this video, it has 14 million views. We see that man standing outside of his car.
With
He does
the bow
mention
and
All
arrow.
Lives Matter, and then it also appears that he points a bow and arrow at protesters who he claims were throwing things, with the protesters then rushing him.
Don't you dare! This is his car! This is
Good. That's what needed to happen.
So it appears that he was swarmed by people after aiming a weapon at people. And actually, since that went viral, we also saw people sharing a clip that appears to be that same man getting out of a car with the same license plate, carrying a machete or a large knife and walking after protesters. So we're seeing
got your
chaos in
karma.
the streets, but we're also seeing chaos regarding the information. So like I always try to tell people, because no one has a perfect record. When you see something online, be skeptical of it. Don't be a crazy conspiracy theorist at all times, but always try and ask yourself, is there more to this story? Especially if it's something that you feel like reinforces your point. That's been something that we've seen put the blinders on the best of people. Now, one of the other notable things with this story is we've seen people of all colors involved with peaceful protests, people of all colors involved with destruction. But one of the things we've seen kind of seem to pop up over and over in various cities is we've seen a number of instances where it appears that people that live there, right, the local black community, are trying to distance themselves from the violence and stop destruction. With many saying parts of the destruction are not them, but rather white people in masks. And we've seen numerous examples of this.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? It is not black people. It is not black people. What are you doing? What are you doing?
This is not a black woman who's put in Black Lives Matter. I just want you to know that when... Right, but y'all doing that for us and we ain't asked you to do that. Listen, don't spray stuff on here when they gonna blame black people for this and black people didn't do it.
Also, regarding destruction and violence, we saw this video of a woman at a protest in Brooklyn lighting a Molotov cocktail on fire and then proceeding to throw it at a police car. Now, luckily, according to police, that device did not ignite and all the officers in the car did get out safely. Now, according to reports, that woman, who has since been identified as Samantha Shader from upstate New York, has been arrested. She now faces 4 counts of attempted murder of a police officer, attempted arson, assault on a cop, criminal possession of a weapon, and reckless endangerment. Right, and so with this incident, you had people on Twitter pointing out that this woman who was instigating violence appears to be white and had come from outside the city. And that brings us to a point we really need to dive deeper on, and that is there's just a ton of confusion surrounding these protests. In many cases, it's hard to tell who's instigating the violence and looting, even when we have videos of these incidents circulating online. You know, usually the videos are showing riots after they've already started, meaning a lot of the times we usually don't know what led up to them. Also, to add to the confusion, we've seen widespread allegations of undercover cops contributing to the riots. For example, on Thursday, you had tons of people on social media using the hashtag Umbrella Man, this to claim that an unidentified rioter in a gas mask was actually an officer with the St. Paul Police Department. And in a video, we can see that man smashing the windows of an AutoZone in Minneapolis that was later burned down. There's also a black man in a pink shirt that appears to try to get him to stop before he ultimately walks off. And so you see that man in the pink shirt as well as others following this man. They then accuse him of being a cop. That video gets posted, it blows up online. Ultimately, the allegation gains so much traction that the St. Paul PD responds to it on Thursday night, writing rumor control. We are aware of the social media post that erroneously identifies one of our officers as the person caught on video breaking windows in Minneapolis. We've seen it, we've looked into it, and it's false. And adding, our officer, he's been working hard, keeping people and property safe and protecting the right to peacefully assemble. It's sad that people would post and share this untrue information, adding more confusion to an already painful time in our community. But that also didn't seem to stop people from continuing to make allegations. Also, another big point of confusion we saw over the weekend was Governor Tim Walz, as well as the mayors of Minneapolis and St. Paul, saying that most, if not all, of the arrests around the Twin Cities were of people from outside the state.
I think our best estimate right now that I heard is about 20% is what we think are Minnesotans, and about 80% are outside.
And I want to be very, very clear. The people that are doing this are not Minneapolis residents. They are coming in largely from outside of the city, from outside of the region to prey on everything that we have built over the last several decades.
Because we had a relative stillness in St. Paul, we didn't make an enormous number of arrests, but every single person we arrested last night, I'm told, was from out of state.
But it also appears that those statements do not appear to be true. According to Minneapolis's local NBC affiliate, records show that most of the arrests made so far are in-state, with an investigative reporter for the station showing that 56 of the 69 arrests made by Hennepin County from Friday to Saturday were of people in or around Minneapolis. But also here he notes, this is all cases, right? Some might not be connected to the riots. But we also later saw the mayor of St. Paul, which is in Ramsey County, walking back his original statement, saying he had actually been given inaccurate information in a police briefing. Now, also, another extremely important thing that I want to hit on here is despite how violent some of the protests turned riots have become, we also need to stress that many of these protests around the country began peacefully before they were escalated by either rioters or police. For example, we saw this video being shared yesterday by Eugene Lee Yang from the Try Guys. In it, you can see people near Beverly Hills in California sitting, kneeling, and standing. Notably, the entire situation seems very peaceful, but we later saw violence breaking out at that scene, and as far as how it began, you had a number of people sharing videos of officers attacking crowds seemingly unprovoked.
Why?
You see other clips where people are standing in a line with their hands up, officers asking them to disperse, but right as the crowds begin moving, they just start hitting a protester with a baton. And given that the situation happened in LA, we saw a number of notable social media personalities saying things like, "This was peaceful until the cops escalated it. We were there, thousands of us, quietly listening to speakers and playing drums and had indigenous folk dancing for BLM. Police came in with their batons drawn and tear gas and rubber bullet guns. They are instigating it." Another writing, "Everyone was peaceful and kind. Shop owners cheered us on and motorists honked in support and raised their fists in solidarity. Aside from a little graffiti, there was no vandalism. Then the cops came and attacked people to start a fight. Why?" But at the same time, you had other people sharing other clips saying that they showed protesters instigating and antagonizing the police. But also, regardless of what escalated things, it takes us to the part of the story where we need to talk about police and their role in these protests. Also worth noting here is that in some areas, the National Guard was deployed, in some cities instated curfews in light of protests, including Los Angeles. But it wasn't just LA where people accused officers of overreaching their powers. In New York, there was a video of an officer going up to a man with his hands up, taking off his mask, and then pepper spraying him in the face. You also have that now infamous video of those two NYPD cars driving into a crowd. Right, it appears some protesters are throwing things, some trying to move the barrier. Then one cop car starts veering into the crowd, another follows, making its way into the crowd even faster. Also of note here, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio had this to say.
"I don't want to get in with could they have done this thing, that thing, because I wasn't there and I don't know the nuances of it. I know what happened. I don't ever want to see a police officer do that, period, ever. But I also know that there was an extremely dangerous situation, and the one thing they couldn't do was stay there."
And that was a response criticized by many, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. There was also a video from Seattle that appears to show a police officer putting his knee on a protester's neck, people screaming for that officer to stop there, though we don't know exactly the context of what happened before. It does appear that it might have been part of officers attempting to arrest protesters and looters who were fleeing the scene. Also many people pointing to this video because of the knee. We also saw police officers in Minneapolis seeming to fire rubber bullets or some sort of non-lethal at people on their own porches. Is reportedly to enforce the curfew.
Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
And also, understand, if you look online, there is just clip after clip after clip right now.
Get the fuck on! Get the fuck on! Don't fucking touch me either! Fuck you do again. What the fuck you gonna do about it? Nothing.
Don't fucking touch me!
There's also this horrible clip of a couple being tased and pulled out of a car.
Guys, come to our shot. Watch your back down. Come to our shot.
Also, an update to that story, 2 of the officers involved there have been fired.
Good.
Also, we've seen reports of journalists being
enough,
outright
though.
targeted as well. You know, one of the first examples of this, while outrageous, was probably one of the most tame. Right, that now infamous clip of a CNN crew being arrested in Minneapolis even though they were complying with officers. A moment that resulted in the governor apologizing for that ever happening. We've also seen other examples like this reporter in Louisville.
Okay, well, you keep going and go where you gotta go, and that's fine with us.
Okay.
We got plenty of time here.
Are you okay?
I'm getting shot! I'm getting...
Katie, are you okay?
Rubber bullets! It's okay. It's those pepper bullets. Bullets.
Who are they aiming that at?
Nice shooting at the photographer.
At us, like directly at us.
And she was also far from alone. We saw MSNBC host Ali Velshi, who was reporting in Minneapolis as officers approached his crew.
They're working towards us. They're working. Step back. Get back. Your head. His head. Step back. All right, there has been no provocation, Joshua. There was nothing that happened whatsoever. The police pulled into this intersection.
This is the problem.
Unprovoked, right into the middle of the crowd. Split the crowd, started firing in both directions.
And once again, these are among many. But also, I do want to note that we also saw images of police in some cities sort of standing with protesters. For example, in Flint, Michigan, Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson actually marched alongside people.
Don't think for a second that he represents who these cops are from all over the county and around the station. We go out there to help people, not do that nonsense.
Seriously. That's right.
So I just want to tell you, where's my man? Right there. Where's the gentleman? Pastor Hawkins is here. I'm just going to tell you, we want to be with y'all for real. So I took my helmet off and laid the batons down.
Yeah.
I want to make this a parade. So listen, I'm just telling you, these cops love you. That cop over there hugs people. So you tell us what you need to do.
Walk with us.
We also saw police in New Jersey and Kansas City joining. In Santa Cruz, California, the police department actually released a statement saying they were in support of the protests, and at the protest, some officers also took a knee. But still, even with those nice moments, just the sheer number of incidents and videos of what appeared to be law enforcement exerting excessive force, we saw reactions like this one from Amnesty International, saying in a statement on Sunday that the actions taken by police could be considered unnecessary or excessive force, and adding, equipping officers in a manner more appropriate for a battlefield may put them in the mindset that confrontation and conflict are inevitable. U.S. police across the country are failing their obligations under international law to respect and facilitate the right to peaceful protest, exacerbating a tense situation and endangering the lives of protesters. And continuing a little later, racism and white supremacy are fueling these killings and the police response to the protests. President Trump must end his violent and discriminatory rhetoric and policies, and the U.S. government at all levels must ensure the right to protest as guaranteed by international law. Now that said, while you have Amnesty International calling on Trump to change the way that he talks about this issue, you also saw Trump over the weekend tweeting, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city," blaming the left for escalations and adding, "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd and I won't let that happen." Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. Now that tweet was later flagged by Twitter for glorifying violence, which is a whole other can of worms to open. Also, we saw other tweets from Trump, like where on Saturday he said that if protesters in front of the White House had breached the fence, they would have been met with the most vicious dogs and most ominous weapons I have ever seen, as well as tweeting liberal governors and mayors must get much tougher or the federal government will step in and do what has to be done, and that includes using the unlimited power of our military and many arrests. Also, regarding his responses here, you've had a number of people comparing it to how he talked about Charlottesville back in 2017, how he talked about the protests recently as far as stay-at-home orders. And there, I would say another video, another time. I want to try and stay on topic here. Though, if there is a place that I can end this video right now, I think it's kind of two video clips. One coming from Killer Mike in Atlanta, where he tries to explain why things are happening while actively preaching against it.
It is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization.
Right, but then also explaining the emotional and psychological aspect of this.
I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. And we watch it like murder porn over and over again. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do.
Also addressing CNN, asking them to stop fear-mongering in the news, talking about the vandalism that happened at their headquarters.
I'm glad they only took down a sign and defaced a building and they're not killing human beings like that policeman did. I'm glad that they only destroyed some brick and mortar and they didn't rip a father from a son. They didn't rip a son from a mother, like the policeman did.
And in this, essentially saying people need to take their energy and use it to move people to vote. Right, so you had Mike there, and then there was this other protester while being interviewed who said this about people who were kind of taking this moment and trying to take advantage of it.
This is what I gotta say to the people who are destroying things. If you really feel like you have to take an opportunity, like if you're gonna be an opportunistic, something is wrong with you. If you cannot stand up and fight the good fight and you wanna be a cheater and go ahead and take what we're trying to do, something is wrong with you. Because what we're trying to do is stand up for the basic rights of humanity. And that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do it in a peaceful way.
But on the other hand, you did have other people like writer and former NBA star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sort of explaining why rioting is happening. In a piece for the LA Times, he addressed people criticizing and condemning the looting or the fires, writing, "You're not wrong, but you're not right either. The black community is used to the institutional racism inherent in education, the justice system, and jobs. And even though we do all the conventional things to raise public and political awareness, write articulate and insightful pieces in The Atlantic, explain the continued devastation on CNN, support candidates who promise change, the needle hardly budges. I don't want to see stores looted or even buildings burned, but African Americans have been living in a burning building for many years, choking on the smoke as the flames burn closer and closer. What you see when you see black protesters depends on whether you're living in that burning building or watching it on TV with a bowl of corn chips in your lap waiting for NCIS to start. And ultimately, even with everything we've covered, this is just a little bit of this very big, overwhelming, chaotic, messy, confusing situation. A lot of people out there are trying to paint it as just one of a lot of different things. Or people want simple. They want to be able to paint everything with a broad brush, but you can't do that here. The only thing I can try to do to leave things on the most basic, simple note is say Black Lives Matter. Yes, there is much more to talk about, but just the general starting point. Yeah. Black Lives Matter. There needs to be that general starting point and understanding, and for those that maybe initially respond, all lives matter. Yes, they should. That's what people are saying when they're saying Black Lives Matter. But with all of that said, that is where I'm ending today's show. Of course, given anything that we've talked about, I would love to know what you're thinking.
This one that popped up a few hours ago, or an hour ago, I guess. Nope, helps if I turn the volume up.
What is part 2? Hey, it's me, your buddy, Philip DeFranco. Thanks for tuning in to what is part 2 of your Monday Philip DeFranco show. If you missed part 1 at any point, you can click up there to watch it, or it's the top link in the description down below, or as always, you can go to youtube.com/DeFranco. And for those of you who have maybe missed the last 5 shows that I put out, right now we're having to split out the shows so that we have a show where we talk about very graphic things like part 1, which we uploaded earlier, which is the kind of content YouTube often suppresses, resulting in more views, getting in front of fewer people. And then we upload part 2, which is what you're watching, and we hope that it's it doesn't get suppressed, so you can watch this and then after today's show, watch the other part because it's incredibly important. But with that said, welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today are celebrities. They're just like us.
Yo.
I hate those segments. Here's Gwen Stefani walking her dog. Can you believe? I mean, sure, yeah. Not all celebrities are crazy aliens. I mean, some sure. But no, the story is about celebrities and really about their reaction and their involvement in protests as well as the use of their platforms. And this kind of breaks down into two situations: the people who have used their platforms and the people who have gotten backlash for potentially not using them effectively. But first, let's talk about the ones who have been speaking out, like the men we saw attending some of the protests this weekend. There were a ton in Los Angeles, right? You saw people sharing a photo of Ariana Grande. Grande also tweeting about attending, saying all throughout Beverly Hills and West Hollywood, we chanted, people beeped and cheered along. We were passionate, we were loud, we were loving. Tessa Thompson sharing footage. Michael B. Jordan was also seen in Beverly Hills. Halsey also attended protests both Saturday and Sunday. She also brought medical supplies to help at the second, and this was notable because she was actually hit with rubber bullets at the first. We saw the likes of Jamie Foxx speaking in Minneapolis.
All I wanted to do is let you know that we're not afraid to stand. We're not afraid to stand. We're not afraid of the moment.
But protesting wasn't the only way that celebrities were showing their support here. I mean, sure, you had people speaking out on social media. We also saw the likes of the newly famous, with the queen of TikTok herself, Charli D'Amelio, also posting about this, saying that she, as an influencer, feels that she has a job to speak up and address racial injustice.
We all have a voice. We need to stand up for what is right and stick together.
But also, you had a ton of them donating to a variety of funds related to this, including Chrissy Teigen, who tweeted, "I am committed to donating $100,000 to the bailouts of protesters across the country." Right, and these bailouts refer to the funds all around the country set up to cover the bail for protesters arrested during these protests. Right. While there were many that praised her for this, if you went to her replies, there were also a lot of people criticizing her, criticizing the protests, mentioning the looting, saying she was essentially supporting that. To which Teigen replied, "Ooh, they might need more money then, make it 200,000. Right, and around this you had a bunch of other celebrities like Seth Rogen, Ben Schwartz, and Steve Carell posting that they matched a $50 donation to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, though there they did receive backlash kind of from both sides. Right, a number of people saying you're claiming to help the protesters here, but then also wondering if they are supporting bail for people looting or destroying things, though we don't know all the details of how these organizations allocate bail funding. And then on the other side, you had people essentially saying it wasn't enough, with tweets like, "If I see another millionaire celebrity match a $50 donation, I'm gonna lose it." And for what it's worth there, you did have Seth Rogen later adding that he donated more than $50. Also, I'll mention this here because I had so many people requesting this, we should mention Jake Paul for a moment. He was trending all over the place over the weekend with a ton of people bashing him. I mean, the video on Twitter has tens of millions of views. And among the footage being shared, it showed Jake Paul inside of a mall in Arizona that was being looted in connection to the protests. Right, and here some claiming that he was looting, and here a number of people pointing to it looking like he had a bottle of vodka that had been stolen from P.F. Chang's. And when you look at videos from the scene, it looks like someone else got it to him. But even without the allegations against a millionaire that he was looting, there were a ton of people angry that he even attended this. Right, some people thinking he was out there for vlog content or clout. And as far as Jake Paul's response to this, he ended up tweeting out an explanation, saying that he was not looting, just documenting what he saw while attending what started out as a peaceful protest, and adding, "I do not condone violence, looting, or breaking the law. However, I understand the anger and frustration that led to the destruction we witnessed." And for those that have been asking for my opinion on the Jake Paul situation specifically, just to be transparent here, you should take my opinion with a grain of salt. I have an anti-Jake Paul bias. It is my opinion that he is a generally bad guy who knows how to mimic being a good human when it serves him. Based off of everything I've seen thus far, it appears like he was there for content, to be a tourist to the chaos. But there, I'd be more than happy to be proved wrong by a video that doesn't contain some sappy music, that's definitely not a damage control PR, but this should also be probably the least important aspect of this whole story that we're talking about. Right, and so I mention all of this to kind of get to the final point here, and that is, what role should celebrities play? Because while we see celebrities who are engaging in whatever way that they're engaging in, getting support and hate, there's also recently been a conversation about celebrities who do not use their platform. And I think a large part of this conversation stemmed from Don Lemon actually talking about this on his show Saturday night. He started out by saying that a lot of the people that are protesting right there on the ground, they're leading the charge here, they don't have much to their names at all. But then saying that he knows that wealthy celebrities are not willing to do the same, right? And saying this particularly about Hollywood leaders and specifically black celebrities with large platforms.
But a lot of people I asked to come on this show to talk about this, wealthy celebrities, wealthy political people. I can't do it. I'm mad. I don't want people to see me mad. It might hurt my business.
Who cares?
Or I'm so upset that I had to go to my country house and I just can't do it.
Oh, no.
Where are you? Why aren't you fighting for these young people? If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? If you are a millionaire or a gazillionaire or a movie star or a politician, and you don't step up now, when the hell are you going to do it?
Also going on to say that while people donating is good and helpful, they also need to speak up to bring visibility to the issue so young people have something to look up to.
If they see you out there, then they know there's that person like me. There's that Oprah like me. There is that Jay-Z like me. There is that Colin Kaepernick who is like me, who is on television because of the knee, and now it is all coming full circle.
He later goes on to call out people like Ellen and Tyler Perry as well, saying he's calling them out because he loves them, and saying even though they do donate to various charities, he wants them to be doing something more in this moment. Right, and so with this story, I would love to know your thoughts regarding the role of celebrity at times like this. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today in Awesome, brought to you by Keeps. And if you didn't know, 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35. Right? Everyone's got that brother, uncle, even that friend, and if you don't want to go down that road, you don't have to just sit idly by. Keeps helps you stop hair loss before it's too late. They offer generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there, so some of you might have actually already tried them, but probably never at this price. Also, what's great is you used to have to go to a doctor's office for your prescription, but with Keeps, you can just get treatment delivered straight to your home, which, I mean, is especially important right now with everything else that's going on. Right, one of the last things you want to do right now is take an unnecessary trip. And best of all, for a limited time, you beautiful bastards can get 50% off your order. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, just go to keeps.com/DeFranco or just click that link in the description down below to receive 50% off your first order. The first bit of awesome today is a reminder/announcement. You only have 9 hours left if you want to get our new limited edition drop of our special redesign of One Day We'll All Be Skeletons. Available in short sleeve with that front and back graphic, long sleeve where you got the text down the arm, and of course, as always, our premium hoodies. You get some awesome for yourself, and of course, it helps support the show. Then we got 50 people naming the most famous fictional character from their state. Netflix gave us Outer Banks versus Never Have I Ever versus On My Block. Neil deGrasse Tyson gave us 3 mind-blowing space facts. Kristen Bell, Terry Crews, Jeff Goldblum, and more break down their first IMDb credit. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's actually talk about a story that we briefly touched on this morning. I mentioned that it was a whole can of worms, and here are those worms. Right, and so a large part of this is around the fact that Twitter is hiding a tweet from President Trump saying that the president was glorifying violence. That tweet is still up, you have to click it to see it, but that's a situation. And it's a situation that actually concerns 2 stories. The first is that last week, Twitter slapped a warning label over a different set of tweets from Trump, with Twitter explaining they did this because Trump was posting misleading and inaccurate information related to the 2020 election. On Thursday, we saw Trump retaliating by issuing an executive order aimed at restricting social media platforms' ability to police their own content. And the second part of this story concerns the protests that we're seeing across the country right now. In 2 tweets last Thursday with Donald Trump criticizing the riots and the looting that we're seeing. In the first tweet, he says that he can't stand by and watch what's happening in Minneapolis. He goes on to slam Mayor Jacob Frey for being a weak, radical left mayor. But notably here, it's actually his second tweet that Twitter flagged because he says, quote, "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way. Any difficulty and we will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you." And while of course many were angry and frustrated with Trump using the word thugs, this because while supporters of the president say that he's referring to just people committing crimes, a lot of people think that he's just talking about black people. But it's actually the last part of that message that Twitter took issue with, right? When the looting starts, the shooting starts. And with that, they placed a warning over his tweet saying, violated Twitter rules about glorifying violence. However, Twitter has determined that it may be in the public's interest for the tweet to remain accessible. And so while Twitter left this up, users weren't able to reply or like the post, though retweets with comments were still possible. Now, following that, what we ended up seeing is the next morning, the official White House Twitter account quoting Trump's tweet. That tweet got hit with the same warning until we ended up seeing the White House later posting another tweet defending the president, saying that he didn't glorify violence and adding he clearly condemned it. Jack Dorsey and Twitter's biased bad faith fact checkers have made it clear Twitter is a publisher, not a platform. Right, and Friday morning we saw Trump making post after post about this, continuing his claim that social media sites have an anti-conservative bias. We also saw Trump defending his original comments, saying looting leads to shooting and that's why a man was shot and killed in Minneapolis on Wednesday night. Or look at what just happened in Louisville with 7 people shot. I don't want this to happen, and that's what the expression put out last night means. It was spoken as a fact, not as a statement. It's very simple. Nobody should have any problem with this other than the haters and those looking to cause trouble on social media. Honor the memory of George Floyd. And while we did see supporters of the president saying similar things, as far as a lot of the response online, we saw a lot of people pointing to the fact that there's actually a historical context behind this phrase. Right, it turns out that it was actually first used in 1967 by Miami Police Chief Walter Headley to describe his department's plans to crack down on protests in black neighborhoods. That phrase was also even considered Twitter to have contributed to the city's race riots in the late 60s, and it is also something that on Friday, Twitter even referenced when it issued a follow-up statement. Now, notably here, that is just what we've seen on Twitter. Over on Facebook, there's a much different story, because while Trump made the exact same post there, the platform has not taken any action against it. And in fact, on Friday, we saw the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, saying, "I've been struggling with how to respond to the president's tweets and posts all day. Personally, I have a visceral negative reaction to this kind of divisive and inflammatory rhetoric, but I'm responsible for reacting not just in my personal capacity, but as the leader of an institution committed to free expression. I disagree strongly with how the president spoke about this, but I believe people should be able to see this for themselves, because ultimately, accountability for those in positions of power can only happen when their speech is scrutinized out in the open." But also because Zuckerberg made this decision, refusing to act on Trump's post in any way, we also saw a number of Facebook employees publicly disagreeing with Zuckerberg. Several of them taking to Twitter to say things like, "Inaction is not the answer. Facebook leadership is wrong. I work at Facebook and I am not proud of how we're showing up. The majority of coworkers I've spoken to feel the same way. We are making our voice heard." Another employee explaining, "Censoring information that might help people see the complete picture is wrong, but giving a platform to incite violence and spread disinformation is unacceptable, regardless who you are or if it's newsworthy. I disagree with Mark's position and will work to make change happen." Right, and so as far as if any of that will be effective, we'll have to wait and see. We're seeing reports like dozens of employees protested the move by taking the day off to support protesters, setting their autoresponders to reflect their views. Right, that's because people are working at home, so they couldn't actually stage an in-person walkout. Also, reportedly, other employees have circulated petitions against Facebook's inactivity and threatened to resign. And we may learn more tomorrow, because that's when Zuckerberg will be holding his weekly meeting with his staff to discuss the dispute over Trump's posts. But ultimately, that's where we are with this story now, and we kind of just have to wait to see how things play out, both with what's already happened, as well as possible moderation of future content. Right? Will we see other instances of tweets getting flagged? What's the reaction to that? And also the question I'll pass off to you, when it comes to the social media platforms, do you think it makes sense for there to be kind of a laissez-faire approach, right? Don't touch anything, everything's fair game, or no, some action needs to be taken, otherwise these platforms are complicit, right? But also with the situation, I think it's important to consider, morality or ideologies aside, how do you actually implement something without someone else calling foul? Right? I mean, think about how many people are on these platforms, or does that even matter if your kind of main goal is to fact check heads of state first and then work your way down? Then also the effectiveness of that is automatically going to be conversation in those comments down below. And remember, for today, this is not the end of your Philip DeFranco show if you have not seen the other parts. So if you want to watch that, or maybe you already watched it, you want to watch the last podcast I did, both of those videos are at the ready. You just got to click or tap one of those right there. But with that said, of course, as always, my name
why is it 7:20? You will. Let's go see what we can find to go watch. Hey, my stomach. Piston use bloopers.
Sorry about that.
Of hydrochloroquine.
She can't say it.
But woo, won't be able to get that one out again.
There is definitely fun for everyone here at Hovatters.
Oh, the poor goat.
Our record for Saturday morning is 29, and we're going to be close to it. Don't come downstairs, Mark Dubek.
I don't know if you guys can hear this, but look at my dog in the background right here. I just got to get up and show you. So, with his squeaky toy, I should have made sure I got that before I did my forecast.
Pag titingnan mo yung guidelines na nung binabasa ko, let's say for example, kung private vehicle, ang allowed is 2 pasahero per row. Ibig sabihin, ang makakasakay lang.
Mazen's got the EP stretch. You see that in the back left? Nice job, Mazen. We got Kevin.
There it went.
I missed that. You guys missed it. I missed it.
Oh my gosh. Live from her home. There you go. That'll affect your mental health, right, Christy? Tell Sammy we said hello over there.
Oh boy.